This video is to demonstrate the processing of all your inboxes and basic rules of thumb. In your inboxes, we already have the list of all of the inboxes which you will ever have to process. So we already have that reference list of all the ones to go through. The first question when we're processing is, does this really matter to the next 60 days? Like, is this mission critical? So many people make the mistake of having all of these items which they're looking to accomplish, which they really won't be able to get to, and getting it into what would be called like their current project system. Or they're just overwhelmed with, hey, how do I handle all the stuff that I would like to do someday? The key answer for that is very simple. If it is not critical to the next 60 days, you simply drop it into your someday personal or someday work. So let's say, hey, this doesn't matter if you're driving some business stuff. Hey, you know, crazy idea. Do this with the website. Maybe someday you want to take, salsa lessons, travel here, etc., etc. But this is one of the biggest components to having a project list that's just current, so you can truly focus on getting through and having progress on only the things that matter. Otherwise, people just start to stack more and more items onto their current runway, which is already overwhelmed and mismanaged in the first place. So that first critical thing is you got to get everything out of the way which really does not matter to this next 60 days, so you can play in a very clean and organized system. The next question is this item really actionable? Like, do I have to do something in this? And this is everything from, hey, a lot of people learn to use like the delete button on anything, your emails, your inboxes. Can I just remove it? The other side is your reference file system that we refer to, and that's basically like your paper file system. It can be digital as well as paper, and you will need both. And it's simply, hey, I'm filing this sucker away. It's not actionable, but I may need it for contracts, things like that, project support. And the other thing is like project action support. Maybe this isn't actionable, or I just simply need it for later while I'm working on a project. Now, if it is actionable, key area thumb is if it takes under 5 minutes to do it, just do it. Now, when we're actually processing for the first time, a rule of thumb is there absolutely is no doing of anything, even if it takes just 5 seconds. What we're practicing here is this whole processing all of your inboxes. The reason for this is, imagine this giant inventory you're just even thinking about and everything that you have to do. If you start going down the road of doing, you're going to have 10, 15, even up to 40 things that may only take a few minutes at a time, and you're just going to spend hours and hours actually going down what would be referred as the rabbit hole of doing when you're initially processing. Don't do any of it. We are just saying that we need to do it, and we're going to drop it into the system. Now, most items are going to be going into the project and task management for Todoist. So in order to keep it simple, I'm just going to go over a few basic rules of thumb. The first one is, in order to keep the whole breakdown of it simple, like how many sublevels are you going to have, don't go more than 2 sublevels deep. And here's what I mean by that. So in here under your personal or your work, don't go more than 2 sublevels deep. So if I add a project below it, and then I can indent it, let's say this is going to be sublevel 1. And under sublevel 1, you might have another project below that. And it's going to be sublevel 2. So do not go more than 2 sublevels deep as you're building these projects. So if you have a big one for your work, for example, let's say build website, you might start to have other ones underneath it which include, you know, conversion team, etc., etc. Anyhow, just keep it to no more than 2 sublevels deep. You can use the other features inside of Todoist to also manage sublevels. So for example here, if we're in this sublevel on building the website, we can also say, you know, like hire designer. And in hiring designer, you can go into another sublevel, you know, like who's the designer list? You know, brainstorm on key areas, etc., etc. So you can use the indentation features inside of it. Anyhow, rule of thumb, keep it to no more than 2 sublevels. Another rule of thumb is if the project or task is simple and it only takes a few steps to actually complete, then just enter the task and assign it to one of the main project headers, either like the work or personal or any other type of key area that you have going on in your life. So for example, if you want to have something that's just like hey, maybe you want to like join a new gym. Doesn't have to be all that big. Or in the work one, or you could be simply call Emily regarding meeting up, and keep it very simple. Easily more than 80% of all of the projects or tasks that you'll be entering are probably simple projects or tasks that can fall under the personal umbrella, the work umbrella. You can just add them at the top, etc. Very simple. And as you saw before, if it is more complex, for example, build a website, set up its own full project heading. Say, hey, I want to create another one, and this is going to be like another work project that's big, and boom, you could set it up that way. So it's very simple rules of thumb to follow and keeping it simple. Now, when people are entering things, I want to talk about an area of clarity. A high majority of the time, it is the reason why tasks or projects don't move forward. What holds us back from even doing the decisive next action. Having clarity is just absolutely essential to move things forward, even as part of the decision-making process. Getting this absolute clarity in today's environment is actually where most of the time is spent. Doing that specific knowledge work to decide, hey, what is the true next clarified action which is going to move this forward? And when we don't define this, we actually are re-looking at the task over and over and over again, simply not doing it or just passing by it because we haven't decided to move it forward and being very clear. So let's look at the key points of clarity when we're actually getting in the task. This area probably takes some of the most training as I sit with someone side by side and making sure they're actually clear. The first one is having verb. So let's look at, for example, erase that. Let's say we just have a basic personal task, and it says once again, like salsa. Oops. Motherfucker. I'm fucking slow. Now I'm going to talk about the quintessential importance of clarity. Without clarity when we're entering things into the system, it is one of the key barriers for people moving forward on any task. And this is where actually, in today's world, most of the time is spent actually doing something. It's taking the true knowledge to say, am I clear and decisive on what is the next actual step to move this forward? Otherwise, we just get caught and we run over the task time and time and time again, and we are even rethinking the task all over again on even what it is that I actually need to do to move this forward. You'll be amazed if you just write down little notes without any clarity, even a day or two later, of you forgetting what it means. So, by the definition of clarity, we're going to outline just a few of the major points to have it, and how important it is when you're actually getting it into the system. This particular process of clarity is actually what I have to spend most of my time doing with people side by side to make sure they are actually doing it correctly and to train them in the process of having full clarity. So let's look at these points right now. First of all, having a verb. Now, if I'm add something like salsa lessons, what does that actually mean? Without having a verb, we don't actually know what that means. Just to say the words like start taking salsa lessons, that is so much more descriptive and knows what it means to do. One awesome rule of thumb is knowing the full detail of what it means that anyone else can tell by reading it. Act as if every single task you're writing down, you're giving it to either your personal assistant or your grandma, and she's always going to come back and ask, hey, what does this actually mean? To have the word just like mom written down, you don't know if you want to call her. What does that mean? Is it her birthday? Etc., etc. Now, the next phase, outside of having the verb in the full detail, is getting this down to the truly next action which can move this forward. Now, combining this with the simplicity of like a simple task, what I do is I'll keep using a couple dashes to say, hey, what do I actually have to do to move this forward? Now, I can't just go start taking salsa lessons. Let's say I need to go find places to do it. Can I actually do that right now? I'll probably have to go research online. That's the true next action that I actually do to move this forward. So as we're moving through tasks, one rule of thumb, especially when it comes to very simple tasks and whatnot, is to keep this particular part always there, and you can keep editing it, the end parts, as necessary. So let's say I actually went to go research online and I found a few places to do it. Then maybe I'm not able to call them right now, and then the next place is like, hey, I found them, so I'm going to call, so-and-so to determine times. Then I can enter that. So you always want to keep this key part locked in if that full project has never been completed. Now, a lot of times when doing a simple task, you can have it breaking down even 3 or 4 times. Like you got to do this, then you actually have to do that to move it forward. So you can have, a few different levels to it, but the key criteria here is you're simply getting down to that actually finding a step to move it forward. Here's a really good example where most people will not move something forward. Let's say that they have to call Emily regarding meeting up. Can you actually call Emily to meet up? Can you actually call this company and call this person? So many people, I'll ask, can you actually call them right now if I gave you the phone to do it? And the answer is no. They don't even have the number in the first place. So maybe they need to look up online for Company X phone number, or to call Bill regarding what is Emily's number. And then and only then, once you actually have that side complete, then you could actually call Emily regarding meeting up and delete all that part. But most people, most of the time, they simply do not have clarity on what it is. And once again, to use those rule of thumbs, have a verb and act as if you are handing it off to where 100% of your tasks are being handed off to a personal assistant, and they need to know exactly what it is. One other really quick good rule of thumb when it comes to calling people: call Bill and always use the word regarding X. Because so many times you might just have call Bill, call John, call my boss, and you're just going to forget what it is actually regarding. So to have that basic rule of thumb in play is big. But clarity, 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 clarity. Now, looking back at the sheet here on what actually makes things clarity, or having clarity, is having the verb, knowing the full detail of what it is it truly chunked down to the next action which can move it forward? Now, the next part is a label. We will get into that in actually training, and this is the tool or location to actually move it forward. We will teach labels actually in person. So even before the task is done, not only are you going to have all this other information, you're going to make sure that it has a label, and at the end, hey, that it's assigned to a project. You can put it into the personal or work folders if it's simple, like one of these two guys, personal or work, or it actually is belonging to one of the sub-level projects. So you can assign it at any given time, drop it into whatever project that it actually needs to go part of. But these are the rules of thumb when it comes to getting clarity. And the biggest rule that I got to sit with people, it's normally not only being very descriptive, but truly what is the next action to move it forward. So these are the rules for having clarity when you're actually processing all of your inboxes. Now, getting down to the clarity and this decision-making process, like really think about this. This decision-making process inside of this processing your inboxes flow, this is what makes people money or not, or extremely valuable or not. It literally is the meaning of being decisive. What is decisive? What's happening? What's the next action? So you can get it through into the action system and get it moving forward. Think about that. Think about once you have everything in control, all of a sudden as you're going through the day, how many things start hitting you, whether if it's your emails, you get your call from your spouse, your friends. Imagine having to deal with all of a sudden the greatest test of your system is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fires or major projects really start hitting the forefront. And what do you have to do to move those things forward? The ability to make the decision and have the clarity on how that's going to move forward and the speed of that going through, that determines so much of that masculine energy, that decisiveness, that throughput. That's what makes CEOs like Teflon or not. How much can they handle that's coming at them, make the decisions about it, and simply get it into the system where it's going to move forward, whether if it's them, their team, their family, or anyone else. This is a pinnacle point of flow and time savings and control and training the mind over and over and over again, truly, what has happened here and how am I going to move this forward? And this happens all day long, whether if it's getting the new email, the phone call, and even a lot of it is simply how many ideas come from your own internal creative mind of what you want to do and what's going to happen next. This area, people spend hours and hours and hours a week. I'm talking hundreds to even sometimes 1,000+ hours a year where they get stuck. So not only are they just wasting their time on how they process, but more importantly, think of the delay of time that's wasted on even them moving it forward, and that they're not even making the decision on that it is moving forward. It's just massive economies of scale when it comes to time lost and money lost and really getting down to your life's fulfillment. So this is what I really sit with on people for a long time. It's decision-making abilities, clarity, 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 and I will sit with you and train you getting down to this. So it's just boom, input, decisive action, output, where is it, moving forward, done, next thing. Now, as an example, I'm going to go through one of my inboxes to help demonstrate the whole point of clarity. Probably my biggest inbox, which grows really fast, is my Todoist inbox. It's where all the capturing comes from my phone, as well as it's just so fast as you're working on a computer where everything is just going to dump. So I'm going to grab my inbox and get it down to 0 and to practice showing the clarity of everything that's there. Slack Biz for biz email. That's something I want to implement, so I actually have to research what it's all about. I know it's got to be done at my computer. No due dates. Really don't need those a lot, and this is going to be all about my work. I'm going to drop this down, so I'm going to just drop this guy right into my work folder. Set up alert for responses. I've done that. Set up teeth tickler for the 60 days. So for about 60 days out, this is just a notice of mine. Got to take care of my teeth. So in about plus 60 days out, it's going to be like a notice, and it's going to hit me to say, hey, is this ready? And that's just a quick little personal one. Add the screens to the cost of the bill. I could do that. It's literally going to take me like 10-20 seconds, but the point I'm showing is you processing. So I know I have to do that at my computer, and it's just a quick little personal dealio. Ordered vitamin D. Figure out the way to show higher level ROI values by brainstorming on the ROI sheet. That's part of my implementation business. So I know that I actually have to finish brainstorming in the mind map I created. This has to be done at my computer, and this is part of my GTD biz. Last night, checked the weather. That was for some random thing I do. It's the difference between who in a mind map. I still need to get clarity on some mind maps from some Google people on what's happening, so I do need to ask them. It's going to be at a computer, and it's going to drop into the personal just work folder. Review party doc and get things into play. That's something we're doing for the Opal House. So what do I actually have to do? I need to like review our brainstorming, and that's got to be done at my computer, and that's just part of the whole Opal House dealio. Keep my inboxes going. Where's my inboxes? Done. Reply to Mike. Done. Don wants to sell me his car. That's just totally someday, maybe on the personal side. Jordana friend Lana. I really want to follow up with her. Actually, probably this week. So I'm going to be like plus 3 days away. Oops. Plus, how'd that get bad? Plus 3 days. and that's just a personal thing that I want to get done. Cards Against Humanity, that is actually, I'm waiting for, I got to pick that up at my friend's place at town. I left the cards there, so I need to go pick those up. So I'm committed to grabbing those. Personal, get back into the water. I got to tell my roommates that. And actually, I just got to do that by tomorrow. It's actually only going to take me like 5 seconds, but I'm not going to do things while I'm on the phone or in this process. My point of this video is to keep just processing and processing. Otherwise, rule of thumb, if it took under 5 minutes, I'd be doing these things just to have it done. That's a quick little personal thing. So I'm just driving all these things out of my inbox. Wing Woman, I actually got to follow up with Lydia. Remove the double screen before shutting down. This is an awesome example here. I don't know what this means. Actually, I do now. It's just a little note to myself. I can kill it. Want to send some praise. When do I actually have to do that? I can do it at home. Kind of reminders and how do I engage into positive environments. So I'm going to drop that into Opal House. Anyhow, you're starting to see this whole processing. Connect Melissa with Kat. I have to do that like on Facebook. So I'm going to do that at the computer, and that's just a personal thing. So you're starting to see the flow now. You're just determining where it belongs. I'm still waiting on this guy. That's all of my personal stuff. With Google Drive, how can I get access to all of Brad Mass? I actually need to research this online with Google. It's got to be done at my computer. Just another personal thing. I don't know why it keeps dropping over there. Cassandra vacuum bags for house. That actually has been done. Opportunity with David and Mike H on using his labels. That's part of my GTD business. So I think I need to brainstorm on how to actually help David, because I do have a huge area of opportunity there. And I'm just going to move to the Project GTD Biz. Joe the Swede, I have her down twice. Excellent girl I met. I'm just going to follow up with her on actually Sunday, because I think she's gone for the weekend. And that's just part of my personal stuff. So you can see how quick you can get down to the whole points of clarity. Once again, hey, I'm just being clear with it. What's actually going to move it forward? Is it really well written? And am I assigning a label and a project to it so it's just dropping out of the inboxes? Change Airbnb link. I've done that. Katrina, she seems kind of awesome. I need to follow up with her actually today. That's a personal thing. That'll be on my today list. GTD difference. Things I want to get into my GTD business about what's different. I'll just drop that into my GTD biz that I can handle. So you can see the whole flow. How fast can you get through your inboxes, your Todoist inboxes, your emails, etc., etc., etc. You can get this flow down so fast to where you're just getting all these inboxes down to zero, being decisive on what's going to move it forward, so that you can actually get into the project and task action system to actually get things done and to start moving it forward. That's just another phase of how fast that you can be. And wow, it's an incredible place to be working from on how fast you can actually get things done. Like, what's next? How am I moving it forward? And once you've got past the decision of what you actually need to do to move it forward, wow, I can really get you to the next level of, hey, you're in it, and how fast can you move predefined work forward. So this whole point here, you're just defining work. You're defining what's going to happen. What are the next steps to move it forward? And you'll be amazed at the next steps of, wow, once you're inside of it, or if you're away with your phone, of all these things you can just hammer away at extremely fast. So I hope that helps out a lot with that whole point of processing and getting into the actual Todoist and project and task management system.